Week 3 headlines. What happened in Week 3 in the BCGA? Well, first off, NC Steelers won their third in a row, and they remain the only undefeated team in the league right now. But the Gurus retained the top spot in points with 638 despite a loss in Week 3. Teams on a roll, the Footballers win for the second straight week after an opening week loss. And the Destroyers put up 207 points this week for the week's highest amount. And on the other side of the coin, the Action had the low score with 139. And also, Brian Christopher picks up his first win of the season, while I win, and last year's champs, the Ponies, are still looking for their first wins. Christopher still needs to change his name, but he's got a sweet logo now. So let's go into each of the individual games and see how they all fared out. So first off, we had the Flames at the Med Radicals. The Med Radicals pulled out on this one, 203 to 168. Med Radicals had the second most points of the week. Finally, TJ Hushmanzada and Larry Johnson play up to their potential. Hushmanzada had 39 points and LJ had 21. And the Med Radicals also got 25 from Drew Brees and 29 from Lance Briggs. They should have played Lavernius Coles and his 19 points instead of Sidney Rice and his 0 points. But that didn't make a difference. The Flames had another big week from Brandon Marshall, who had 30 points. And they also got a contribution from LT finally with 23 points. So that leaves the Flames at 1-2, the Med Radicals at 2-1, and the Flames are fourth place overall with 553 points. And even at being 2-1, the Med Radicals are at eighth place overall with 481. All right, next game of the week was the Bime Times against the Footballers. Footballers pulled it out in this one, 190 to 162. And for the Footballers, their offensive stars shown. They had 21 points from their quarterback, Jason Campbell, 25 from the running back, Marion Barber, and 26 from the wide receiver, Larry Fitzgerald. They also added a nice, strong defensive performance from Antonio Pierce with 26 points. But otherwise, they had 6 players in single digits. So luckily, they had those other guys playing well. The Bime Times got 24 points from Julius Jones and 26 from Barrett Ruud, but only 8 from Peyton Manning and 3 from Terrell Owens. So 2 of the big stars for the Bime Times not paying off in Week 3. And they had 7 players in single digits, including Jonathan Vilma, who had a big week in Week 2 but comes back down to earth in Week 3. He only had 4 points. So the Footballers moved to 2-1. They're 6th place overall, 523 points. The Bime Times fall to 1-2. They are 5th place overall, still ahead of the Footballers with 540 points. The next game was the game of the 2 of the best teams in the league so far in the year, and also a battle of high school buddies. But the Destroyers whooped the Gridiron Gurus this week, 207 to 161. And the Gurus had a high-powered offense, but it was slowed down this week, partly because of the injury to Brian Westbrook, who only had 1 point. But they did get a big week from Michael Turner with 31 points, and they had 28 from D'Amico Ryans, who's turning out to be a pretty good defensive star for the Gurus. They did leave 72 points on the bench, but that's also partly because they got 2 good quarterbacks riding the pine, in Aaron Rodgers and Kurt Warner. Like I said, the Destroyers, 207, highest points of the week. They had 34 from Charles Tillman and a total of 133 total points from their defense. And they also added 29 points from Frank Gore on the offensive side. Derek Anderson not working out so well at quarterback for the Destroyers so far. He had 2 points this week, but their only other option is Gus Farrat, who had 12. So maybe Derek Anderson's still the best bet moving forward. But the Gurus go to 2-1. Now they're still first place overall with 638 points, and the Destroyers are at 2-1, and they are at second place overall with 589 points. All right, next game of the week we had the Action against the NC Steelers. And like I said, the NC Steelers go to 3-0. They had 179 points to beat the Action with 139. It was a bad week for the Action, not normally the kind of points they put up. But so the NC Steelers caught them on a bad week. The NC Steelers got 23 points from Phillip Rivers, 27 from Marshawn Lynch, but the rest of the offense, which is the bulk of the NC Steeler team, was pretty lousy. 34 points from 6 players. And it doesn't help that the week's leading individual scorer, Ronnie Brown, was on the bench with his 45 points. And we all remember the notice from the NC Steelers about how he meant to play Ronnie Brown. The defense had 3 people above 20 points for the NC Steelers. Freddie Kiaiho with 22, Rodney Harrison with 20, and DeQuell Jackson with 28. For the action, they had their highest scorer was Santana Moss. He only had 20 points. Everybody else had 14 or less, including 7 players with single digits. So the NC Steelers, despite being 3-0, are only 3rd place overall with 557 points. The action are 7th place overall, 502 points. Moving on, we had the Bismarck Bombers against iWin. The Bombers pulled this one out 176 to 169, our second closest game of the week. And the Bombers deny iWin of their first win of the season. Really what killed iWin was Ben Roethlisberger's -1 points because they had a huge game from Reggie Bush, who had 39 points, and also had 24 points from Kirk Morrison in the defense. The good news for the iWin is they only had 5 points on the bench. That's pretty good coaching. For the Bombers, they had 27 from Matt Forte, 28 from Cortland Finnegan, 21 from Asante Samuel, and surprising J.T. O'Sullivan with 22. A nice call by the Bombers. Even with Carson Palmer on the bench and his 19, they made the right call going with J.T. O'Sullivan. But they also did leave Joseph Adai on the bench, who had 21 points. So iWin, despite being 0-3, is still 9th overall with 477 points, and that's ahead of the Bombers, even though they're 2-1. They are tied for 10th with 474 points. And like I said, the Bombers at 2-1, still behind both 0-3 teams. And our final game of the week, Brian Christopher beats the Ponies. Last year's champs, the Ponies, 0-3, and Christopher picks up his first win by winning the game 171 to 165. Christopher had 31 points from Nate Webster, 28 from Maurice Jones-Drew, and 26 from E.J. Henderson. But they left Ernie Sims on the bench, who had 27. I'll tell you, Christopher is also a team looking for a good starting quarterback. His choices this week were Jake Delhomme with 3 points or Trent Edwards with 13. Neither the best choice. Obviously, Edwards would have been better than Delhomme starting, but neither the good choice. Like I said, the Ponies still looking for that first win. They're definitely hurt by McNabb's injury coming out of the game early. He had 11 points. Could have had more. And Brett Favre on the bench with 21. But they did get 21 from Andre Davis and 22 from Greg Jennings. So the Christopher is in last place still overall with 409 points, but the Ponies are tied for 10th also with 474 points. So let's go back and look at the overall standings. The Gurus are in first place with 638 points, and followed by the Destroyers, 49 points behind them. And then the NC Steelers, the Fredericksburg Flames, the Fighting Bomb Times, the Footballers, the Action, the Mid-Radicals, iWin, and the Ponies, and the Bombers, and then Christopher is pulling up the rear in the overall standings. And then let's take a quick look at Week 4. What do we have coming up in Week 4? The NC Steelers trying to remain undefeated against the Mars Mid-Radicals, who rebounded from a bad Week 2 and came back strong in Week 3. Battle of two of the teams up near the top. We got the Footballers and the Gurus playing each other. Can the Gurus hold on to their top spot? The Destroyers and the Flames are playing each other. Also two of the top teams of the league. The Destroyers trying to catch up to the Gurus. We'll see what happens there. The Bomb Times and the Bombers will be playing each other. Ponies and iWin up against each other. So our winless teams, our two winless teams, one of them is going to get a win this week. And then we finally have Brian Christopher in the Action as the final game of the week. So everybody, good luck in Week 4. Can't wait to see how things turn out, and we'll see you later.